There we go.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another exciting episode of the gaming adventures of and lessons of Diamond Welch. Before we begin anything, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Carrie Fisher. She was a very iconic figure in the Star Wars franchise. How about we have that quick moment of silence? Amen. Um, we have a couple of topics that we'll like to bring up. First, we'll bring up the main topic, the crafting of the perfect villain. Um, and we have other side topics which are the villain's decor and swagger, which is one. The second one is how to pull on the player's heartstrings and affect the players. The third one is the proper steps you must take to make a meaningful villain. And the fourth and last one, the how to make the main goal of the villain and make sure it's properly executed. I am going to go to the main topic and open up discussion about the crafting of a perfect villain. If y'all would take it away by introducing yourself one at a time. Ladies first.
So, hi, my name is Jackie Clark. I'm your assistant Sabat coordinator. I have been in One World by Night for 4 years. I have been doing role play of some sort or another for the last 17 years.
Anybody else can take it away.
MC.
Everybody can take it away.
How about you,
How
Bert?
about yeah?
Stop
Robert?
smiling and introduce. Oh, okay. I have to do it myself. I'm Robert Passovoy, otherwise known as Grog in the Midwest. I'm the single most hated person in the Midwest. I've been in Obi-Wan now for probably around 7 years. And I've been role playing far longer than that.
Hello.
And
Yeah,
it's your turn.
hello, I am Dylan again. I am from the Midwest. I am not universally as loathed as Grog, which is a beautiful thing. And I thank my lucky stars for that every day.
Love you too, buddy.
And I am the host.
I'm not. I'm on the East Coast
And I'm the
now.
host.
You can't use that against me.
I'm totally going to use it against you.
Use
So,
it.
hey, host, what's
Use
going
it
on,
against
bro?
Howard. Yeah, of course. All these old people talking. It's like I'm playing. My name is Diamond Welch. I'm your host for today.
Who are you calling old, youngin?
I'm sorry, Mama J. I'm sorry for that. But my name is Diamond Welch. I started playing in One World by Night last year, and I'm an enthusiastic young player. Werewolf is my favorite genre, but I like to get down with the spot every now and then because just how it is, you know. But right now, I'm going to open up discussion about, the crafting of a perfect villain. How do y'all feel about, how do you make that perfect villain, that villain that you like? Yes, my players, they don't know what's coming. How do you make that villain that's not just doing like this, but more just, just have that form
How
of
to not make the snidely
Say what?
I didn't hear it.
How to not make the snidely whiplash.
Or the monster of the week villain.
Oh, yeah.
Monster of the week is best monster. I'm just saying.
It can be. To be fair, it can be.
It can be, but oftentimes when I see different games that are trying to make, a memorable villain, but they're also doing it for their monster of the week theme, it doesn't create a memorable villain. It creates someone who's almost comical or cartoony, or if they decide, oh, well, let's keep this guy, we'll just keep them coming back. Then they become, to pick on the Ravnos coordinator here, then they become the Blue River that everybody hates. And it's like, oh my God, that fucker is still alive.
Wait.
Which, by the way, yes, he is legitimately alive.
Now, is Blue River a PC or an NPC, or is that going to get
NPC.
someone like, all right, so a lot less credit is due. I understand now. I understand.
Yeah, but as far as crafting a memorable villain, really just giving them that personality, we'll talk a little bit more about goals later on, but just think about how they got to the point where they are at and how does that affect their night-to-night activities. What gives them that drive? How is it going to affect how they hand over, a cup of coffee? how are they making eye contact, if making eye contact at all? Why are they there?
A lot of things that you should consider in this situation is one, genre. You're going to encounter different villains given your different genre. You're probably, though it is possible, not going to encounter, say, a Fomori if you're a vampire player, unless your ST has the dreaded curse of cross-genre.
Sometimes that's a fun curse, but only if it's executed properly.
I would agree. Dylan doesn't look happy.
No, it's just something that I thought was normal for vampire games. Up until you said that.
Honestly,
I don't know what order that came up.
Honestly, it's something that I've dealt with semi-regularly myself as a player, and I've had the great fortune of having STs who have really known their genre and known how to execute it. But I've also seen firsthand and have heard stories about what happens when it's not executed properly. So I can definitely understand where the concept of it is a curse comes from, because those tend to be the borderline monster of the week, comical, cartoony villains at that point.
Well, there is a certain
perfect.
Well, I'm sure Dylan will understand that there can be a certain charm to a cartoony character at time to time, but yeah, that's right. Anyway, I would say that there is a certain appeal to a recurring villain. The problem is, given the genre that we're playing in, you have to make him both compelling and give him a reason to be recurring. At the same time, you can't make him immortal. By making him immortal, by rendering the villain so untouchable that you cannot eventually defeat him and give your players the absolution of we finally killed this son of a bitch. There are many examples of storytellers bringing villains back from the dead in some way, or worse, escalation, wherein you kill this villain. Okay, well, here's a more powerful villain. Well, you kill this villain. Well, here's an even bigger villain. You kill that? Well, have a talent.
Come up with the Dragon Ball Z complex of his power is over 9,000. Who gives a shit? We did that last season.
Yeah, until eventually your players are now dealing with a talent of the worm. And when the book says you cannot win a challenge if the thing doesn't want to lose, have you gone too far as a storyteller? A lot of it has to do with, if you want to make a villain compelling and good and dangerous, you have to be creative as a storyteller. Because
one of the things
go ahead. Go finish up.
No, one of the things that we wind up doing for our games is kind of having a shared plot guide of, here is the main subject of the plot. Here are the, players who are going to be involved, like NPC wise, setting things like that, and giving an idea of runtime to kind of go along with what you were talking about in regards to avoiding the reoccurring villain. When we have something like this where we have an idea of just the half-life of this plot, then we're less likely to run into, well, let's just resurrect this guy again.
Yeah. And I will say that it is contingent on a storyteller to accept player creativity with their villains and disconnect their devotion to their villains. There was a memorable moment in the history of my roleplay where the players literally decided to attack the boss way before it was time. And they won. They were creative. They were good. They beat the crap out of the villain. And the storyteller had to go to the HST and said, they killed the boss before it was time. And the HST had to say, sometimes the players win. And that level of creativity should be rewarded, but at the same time, the storyteller needs to learn, okay, this is how good my players are. Now it's time to give them something more complicated. Dylan, you haven't said anything.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to disagree. All right, you got the tail on of the worm, right? There's a solution to that. You name the solution to that plot. You make him want to kill himself.
I'm going to use that. Thank you.
There you go. That's not unsolvable.
I've seen NPC villains driven to commit suicide before. That is definitely an answer.
Seriously, there is no plot that is unsolvable. This is a... Unless the storyteller has the inherent want to just blatantly ignore the systems in place, you can defeat any plot.
Well, Rest assured that I'll try and use that in the future. Thanks for the idea.
For me personally, I like to have at least 3 possible outcomes. You work with the thing and kind of compromise yourself in a way that makes the character grow or shrink, whatever. You work against it. Or 3, my absolute favorite is surprise me. It gives my players a chance to just kind of do exactly what we're talking about, is just showing that creativity factor.
I would also suggest to storytellers, there is nothing wrong with saying, okay, I didn't expect this. Give me a moment to talk to the other staff and figure out something that happens. Because, I will admit, there's a lot of pressure on storytellers, especially when players are very creative. Hey, here's this idea. And if the storyteller goes, I didn't even think about that option. I can't stop it with what I've established. They should stop, think, and go, okay, they win this, but what are the possible consequences? Talk with the other storytellers. Make it interesting. Even if you lose your villain, you can always make a new one. The book of villainy spans several books in World of Darkness. If you're playing Cam, the Sabbat book is there. If you're playing any of the Changing Breeds, there are multiple books of the Worm with very diverse villainy. Playing Changeling, everything's your enemy. I mean, come on. You can find something within your genre before you go over to something interesting and weird that could potentially make your player base go, what the fuck are you doing?
So basically, you just not trying to cut you off, Robert. No, so basically, what you're saying is, before you start doing the weird oogly, you focus on the oogly that you got. Focus on the villains that you got now, instead of trying to like branch out to like different like pull stuff in from other genres.
Go to basics first, because the basics in your toolkit there can provide so much fodder for plot. It really can.
Well, to be honest, a lot in all of these books, there is absolutely reference to all of these other genres because they provide reference for villainy in those. But at the same time, I think the biggest problem is a lot of storytellers encounter, without realizing it, overcomplication. I created this great, big, complex story, when in reality, your players want a comic book, not a 500-page novel. Does that make sense? You can do 90% of your story instead of using a Nefendi demon-worshipping mage. You can do most of that with a Phyrektoi.
Does somebody say demon? I also work for that team.
Oh, great. So now we know who we sold our soul to.
It could have been one of the other associates.
Not likely.
Probably.
So something I think we're missing here is villains are different in cross-genre. And as much as we want to rail against it, One Roll by Night will forever be cross-genre.
Yes, it will be.
And you can't use out-of-the-book genre adversaries without taking into account their entire book, really.
Yes.
It's not a good thing to start, but when you don't, everybody screams genre.
Yeah. I think that's probably the greatest plague that has afflicted much of the org, which is some people say only one genre. Everyone is saying this whole thing is cross-genre. In reality, the org is cross-genre, whether we like it or not.
Huh? It's its own genre.
It is. I love cross-genre, to be honest, but then again, I'm a freak.
How do I feel about cross-genre?
How do you feel? Tell us, Diamond.
I don't even.
Let's hear your fresh perspective.
I'm so new. I don't even deserve to be here. It's like,
oh my gosh, no, don't you even dare. The new players are the lifeblood of this organization. If I hear you talking like that, the next time I see you, I'm going to kick your ass.
Oh, this is how he gets an ego.
Yeah, perfectly.
Ego and a threat at the same time. Don't tell me.
All right. We're going to move on to the next.
No, how do you feel about cross-genre? Get that out real quick.
Tell us.
Yeah.
If it's did right, executed right, it could probably be fun. I don't have a problem with it because I haven't seen no problems yet. As long as I'm playing the Guru and the mages don't get in my way, I don't have to kill them now.
You just wait until Vampire and Changeling interact.
So,
Buddy.
Oh man, A Blood's a hell of a trip.
Oh yeah. Woo! No, funniest thing in the world was when a group. It was at one of the midwinters. A group of Ratkin pranked the Tremere. They decided to steal blood, and that poor Tremere tripped balls for an hour before I had to vomit up all this blood. That is how cross genre can be funny as hell.
Now we move on to the side topic. One of the side topics out of the four. The villain's decor and swagger. What do he brings to the table? What his swagger like? His presence. Think of like Luke Cage, Cottonmouth. Just his swag, the presence of that villain, and how he just had his boys by his side. They was willing to do anything for him. How do you present that swagger of that villain? How do you craft it so your players can be like, dang, not only is he like sharp.
Are you talking mechanically? Are you talking about the stage presence? Or are you talking about mentality? Like
sounds like stage presence.
Yeah, stage presence and mentality. We'll go with that.
Okay. My best example is for Priscus Medici of the ultra conservatives.
Oh God.
Your homegirl. I got into mindset for her by really playing with costuming, playing a little bit with her personality. I was very fortunate to receive write-ups from Nick Lamb and Adam Sartori and get a little bit of coaching from them because they had been pretty much in charge of her beforehand. But from my knowledge, I was the first female player to actually portray her. So went down for costuming, went down for kind of this utilitarian look for her. But she's also described as being hella sociable. And luckily for me, the context that I put in made it very difficult to blink on the regular. So I had very wide blue eyes at any point in time. I would meet people in the eye knowing, this could, screw me over normally. But you know what? Let's be ballsy. Let's go for it. Let's unnerve people. I talked about science. I talked about wave particle duality with people. We talked about technology, just found any way to kind of reach out to younger Canaanites because that's part of where her power comes from is the youth. And a lot of the swagger came from the players around me by making them engage. At one point, I think Elzo from Brazil, he was playing one of the other NPCs in this most recent ecumenical council. And we kind of have this unspoken agreement that we would just kind of go from area to area having a pseudo-private NPC conversation, but then we would drag players into it. And then once we had enough players who were involved in that and having their own conversation, we went and made another conversation somewhere else.
That sounds real good right there. I'm feeling it. Well, how about you, Robert? What about you?
When I create a villain, admittedly, I have not story told in org yet. I mostly story tell outside of org. When I create a villain that I really want to have a emotional or a physical presence, I actually role play them. I try and fit myself into the character. If I figure, how do I want to make this villain make them react? So if I have a villain and I want them to either underestimate the villain, well, what's the best way to make somebody underestimate me as a person? Well, if I'm playing, say, in Werewolf, I would look meek. I would look weak. I would deliberately try and fool the characters that I'm encountering. So if I had a character, say I am a Glasswalker Black Spiral Dancer, my whole premise is people do not understand how strong I am. Well, then I would act weak in front of other Guru. I would deliberately try and make people think that I am not the power behind the throne. It is all about role-playing within your own mind. You can practice, when you're alone in front of a mirror, like any normal actor would. It helps you develop the character. And when you actually do it in front of them, they will usually react in the same way that you expect. So a lot of it has to do with what the villain is. You're going to have a very different personality depending on if it's a vampire or if it's a Black Spiral Dancer or if it's a Fomori or a Phyrektoi or a Fae. You have to also build the character sheet, learn what they have, think about how you would act if you had those skills and you were either very confident, not confident, or deceptive. It's all about immersing yourself in it. Unfortunately, by doing so, you become attached to the character, and you have to be very careful about that.
Yeah.
Also,
I can see
dress
SP
the
being
part.
like that.
If you are a villain and you wear a tux, wear the fucking tux.
But wait a minute. What if I want to wear a card that says Nice Tuxedo ×5?
Then act like you're wearing a tux.
I guess it's up to the players with their imagination to be able to view like this is a dapper dude, you know.
I had to NPC for a vampire game out in Chicago. I was the prince of the city. Every time I came out in my full 3-piece suit to dress as the prince of the city. Because even just wearing that outfit conveyed power and authority.
I've seen some really good like power suits coming out of like thrift stores and stuff like that too. I mean, really just having the matching gear, even if it's not hella expensive, it can really push that presence.
Yeah. Remember that we are LARPing. It's a very visual medium. It's not like a tabletop where they are relying on their mental faculties. You have to give them a visual input to really level the impact that they are given. That's why I like to use visual aids like pictures of what I'm describing, because sometimes description is not good enough.
It's also to get if you can to have like outside sources, like if you have some friends who don't want to play or just want to check it out, just have them like if you playing the big bad that night, have them be your posse or something. If it's more than like 5 friends, so they could be like, dang, posse with them, and you just kind of like
Just another thing, the storyteller. Actually, on that note, what you can do as a storyteller is grab a couple players, say, "Hey guys, I need you to play this," and then they have a posse behind them. That the numbers creates intimidation. Use the psychoses and the psychology to your advantage.
Some of the best storytellers and coordinators that I have personally worked with have screwed my character over so bad that the character was going to be out of play for most of the night. And they made it a point to say, I feel kind of bad that this is going to be what's happening. Willing to jump into these sheets. And I had a blast with it. I mean, these are people that are my allies who are trying to help save my character from certain doom. And I'm getting this gleeful, maniacal delight in just mowing them down left and right. So sometimes it's just kind of fun to play the villain and the antagonist.
Oh, well, that's really what the storyteller gets to play half the time. That's really how they get to express their role play if they don't have another game to go to. Somebody's not talking.
Villain craft. I feel personally it is about goals first. And do you need to have a new antagonist for a villain? Can you use plot stuff that other storytellers used? Like, hey, they use this worm organization. Can another arm of it be used to continue a plot? And you could just reuse stuff, recycle. It works. It's great for game consistency. Players love it. I'm not a storyteller anymore. I'm never going to storytell again. I don't have to worry about this. However, costuming, like I get most people can't afford a 3-piece suit that they're going to tote around a game and risk. But at least just get a blazer and a tie. It works. You can play a pretty convincing corporate, asshole with that. Like, that's one of the best pitch villains. Not a badass, but like just some guy with enough influential pull. Oh, I killed him. Look, the next 8 months of game are going to be fixing downtimes.
Yeah, another way to get into the costuming, something that we've utilized a lot in our neck of the woods is going, hey, who has an insert costume piece here? I've been very fortunate to interact with a lot of former theater kids here, and you don't have to buy the corset. You don't have to buy the blazer. Hey, man, you should probably get a corset and a blazer for yourself. great look, trust me. You can usually find somebody in the area similar size or previously a similar size who would be willing to help outfit you for free.
So I think you can pretty much sum this up as be creative, get into the mind of the villain, visual matters, and sometimes the best plots are plots that are currently running or have run. Don't be afraid to recycle. And know the psychology of your players. Know how to manipulate their emotions.
So now we move on to another topic, which is the second one: how to pull on the player's heartstrings and affect the players physically and emotionally in game.
Read their backstory. Beautiful pain and fodder you can put into that. Yep. A beautiful time I've had has just been a character who's like, oh yeah, I'm this person's childer now. Oh really? They're childer. Tell me more about this. Oh yeah, the biggest mistake any player does is telling the members of Team Hell the things that scare them. And it's beautiful. Hi babies, I love you. But yeah, no. That's one of the best things you can do is read some backstory. Like if at all possible, because sometimes people do write novels for backstories, ask for cliff notes. Look for keywords, things that you can manipulate. Look at the sheets. Okay, they have the haunted flaw. Let's go and control F their backstory here, or control F. Yeah, and just be like, okay, keywords: haunted, ghost, murdered. Okay.
I would say that, at least in my experience, some.
The phone's doing that thing again, bro.
Mine. All right, I'll be right back.
Yep. Oh no, we've lost him.
He'll get cake. He'll be back soon.
Yes, clearly. The cake is not a lie.
He'll be back to these messages.
It's not a lie.
Back. How's
there
that?
You go.
Oh,
it works.
There you go.
It does. It's an amazing fix.
Okay, it's not your turn. Someone else is talking.
Oh, is it? Oh, so good.
I thought it was him. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I'll swing it back to Robert.
Oh, shit. She's absolutely right. The backstory is probably the best way to dig into a player and the best way to dig into the character. But there are other ways that I have found have impacted people in even more profound ways. It's easy to go after, say, a character's child or a character's family. That's almost, in my opinion, snidely whiplash. It's so predictable. If you want to go and really screw with the mind of a character, have the character relate to the villain in some way. Have them realize that the only difference between the villain and the PC is maybe one single choice or one difference. So this person could be a family man. You could have a family. Well, so was the villain, but he came to a different conclusion. And his conclusion may not be necessarily too different from the player. And that right there can be enough to rock the world of a player in so much more of a profound way than they've taken my family, which again is useful for a storyteller. I mean, it's a great way to invoke an immediate response, but it's also so overdone. It's supposed to be about the personal horror, not we must save my family. It's not about Gary anymore. Seriously, I feel that if you attacked the direct motives and decisions of the player, and the character, you will invoke so much more of a response and dig into their character in a much more profound way, because in many cases it is the job of the storyteller to make sure the player is, the character thinks about, am I doing the right thing? Because this is the world of darkness, and in the world of darkness, finding the right thing can be very, very difficult, and it should be.
Exploit the gray space.
Yeah. try to avoid tropes. If you have found it in a movie in a thriller movie within the last 10 years, try to think of something different. If it,
I would say to each their own on that. I'm not necessarily one who pulls on thriller tropes myself, but I have seen other staffs be able to run with that, and it's only after game, hours after game after, we're just kind of in that afterglow of, man,
also,
I just got screwed over so hard. That's when you go, oh my gosh, it's like that movie.
Yeah.
You can elicit that from your players, awesome, but otherwise I'm inclined to agree with don't go with the trope.
Yeah. I would actually almost say every storyteller, if they want to run a personal confliction story, watch the Saw movies and look at all of the games that they do. Make them make hard choices. And of course, somebody's not approving.
Saw? Saw it, really?
Everybody has to make a choice.
Those are gross movies.
Saw, the main character was super psychic and predict everybody's everything in all 7 movies. Oh yeah,
I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested about the situation.
The Machiavellian plans the super entity had for these people he had in cages.
I'm more interested in the choices they have to make. What do you do? Do you do this and save a life, or you do this and you save more? Make
something that makes them choose between their allies or their humanity sometimes.
And for vampire, that's very important. Less so in werewolf and changing breeds. But then again, you make the wrong choice in changing breeds, you gain worm taint. A simple action can gain you worm taint.
Or end a planet.
You can walk the spiral, baby.
Walk the fine line.
Yeah. And a lot of what World of Darkness is walking the fine line, and sometimes you have to shimmy around the line.
You get to be Mace Windu. There you go.
I guess one of my favorite moments.
Okay, I'm gonna make a point.
One of my.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, man.
Bad.
Go ahead.
One of my favorite moments was actually I think Holly executed very well in PvG. Go to that game. It's awesome. It's awesome. Sabat game. It was the moment where my character Leon starting out. I was in a pack and we went to this abandoned mall, and it was this pregnant lady there. So she tried to stab Leon, and Leon was like, "I'm not having that," and I broke her fingers. Like I broke them. Next game, I see a bunch of Guru walking around, and I'm like, that's not normal. And I walked in, and Scott Little, I don't know who else played it. Scott Little was one of the main ones playing one of the big Guru. So he yelling, he's like, "Who broke the Ken folks' fingers?" Like he yelling, he's getting uproar, and I'm looking like, dang, I did that. So I'm, knowing my person, I'm like, I'm not about to take this. I'm about to step up. We about to throw down. So people like, Leon, don't do it. Don't go out there.
I miss that PC
they about to throw down. Yeah, people was trying to convince me not to do it, and my pack mate, the pack alpha stepped up, and he was like, "You know what, Leon, stay back. I got this." He got he got decimated, and he didn't die, but he got whooped. So I told my other 2 pack mates, who was like, I called them. I was like, "Y'all stay there, and we take the punishment." And I guess that level of, because I thought my PC was going to die that night. I thought Holly wasn't playing that night. But the punishment and how everything set in and just was in character, I wasn't afraid, but out of character, Diamond was like shaking his boots. That was the best night of roleplay I ever had. And really tugging on the heartstrings because I didn't want the 2 new players that was newer than me coming in and getting throttled. So I called, basically my PC called them and told them to stay. And, it was one of those moments where it was just crazy. I loved every minute of it. Shout out to Holly for running that scene and Scott Little and folks for doing that. It was amazing.
The moment that you have described is both beautiful and poignant in that the actions of one PC have created a sort of a villainy moment for the rest of their pack because of his actions. One of the things I love to do is to make other players suffer the in-character consequences because of one of their allies. And it just creates so much conflict, and it either makes them somehow trust the other person more, which gives them that, why should they trust me? Oh God, no. Or it makes them just despise them and turns them into like a PC antagonist at that point, which I love to see.
Now we move on to the next topic. The proper steps you must take for crafting a meaningful villain. How do it affect the game overall? And, the mark that he leaves, like the aftermath.
Now, are we talking about making a PC into a villain or making an NPC villain? Not that I'm giving a good segue for Robert here or something.
Hey, I wasn't going to go into that until I had
to. What? We do both. Y'all pick y'all poison.
Oh, no, moderator man. You get to make that decision.
And I would point out that in the pre-show, you brought him up, not me.
You brought him up first.
Okay.
You weren't there for it. You have no evidence.
Order. Let's go for NPC first.
All right.
Okay, NPC. We'll do NPC first.
Just Robert's ruled this shit.
Wow.
We'll do NPC first.
Come on, quietly.
We'll start with Robert since he's
Wait, whoa! Don't start with me. Start with them.
No, you can go first. Go for it. They're your rules of order.
Go ahead. You balling.
Oh my God. Okay. When you're talking about how to develop your villain and how it frames the rest of your narrative, the first thing you need to do is figure out what you want him to do. Think about what his goals are, but necessarily figure out how he's going to do it, the method he's going to do it in, any kind of contingencies that he may have, and most importantly of all, the steps the players will need to take in order to confront him. Is that fair? And also you have to consider, I hate to say this, genre. How likely is it that, say, if you have a group of mages, that they would piss off and anger and interest a group of black spiral dancers? Be considerate of what you're doing. It's not necessarily a bad thing to say, I have a bunch of, changelings and they get on the bad side of a bunch of spirals, but make sure that there's reason for it. There has to be justification. So
that can usually be in setting.
Sorry, you cut out. What was that?
That can usually be answered by setting.
Yeah. I mean, also consider player action. What have the players been doing that may have drummed up interest? Have they recently raided a museum? Who owns the museum?
Or broken the fingers of a kinfolk?
Exactly. What have they done to suddenly spawn this new villain? And what interested parties will suddenly come up? So, when you are developing your villain, you have to remember, one, that your villain also must be defeatable. The final note is, this is a story about the players, not about the storyteller. You cannot just be like, he's invincible. He wins every chop. You don't get a chop. That's not how a good villain works. A good villain is not a god, because the players aren't gods. They have a sheet that says what they can do, which is why if you're making a villain, give them a goddamn sheet.
Yes.
And then adhere to the fucking sheet. If they win, they win. Is that fair?
Fair.
Yeah.
All right, somebody else talk.
No.
I like giving, in the process, giving the villain a fatal flaw. Sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. But giving them that fatal flaw in the creation process helps make them more tangible.
I think that's very fair, because in the end, even if they are supposed to portray themselves as the great force of evil. They are, in many cases, just as quote-unquote human as the players. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
So we touched on the NPC aspect. How about how about the
Oh
PC?
my God, we have to come
How
onto
about
this.
the PC? What has been some PC that was the hero, valiant, brave, heroic? Then next, you see that as a player can slowly decline or a storyteller down to the villain, just like the nitty gritty. Just seeing him like you ain't the same person who I knew. Stab, stab.
Okay.
You know.
So I have so much input on this. I am so excited. So one of the things to take note of when it comes to the team help packets, I think it's not. I don't think it's the thaumaturgy packet, but the early parts of the packet itself, it pretty much says, "Hey, congratulations, you are now the antagonist. You are the villain. Thank you so very much. You're gonna die." That's pretty much what it says in a nutshell. When I see a PC become that villain, become that antagonist, it makes me so excited as a subchord, as a former storyteller, as a narrator, as a player overall. So my biggest piece of advice is never stop believing that you are the hero. It doesn't matter that you are eating babies. It doesn't matter that you're breaking fingers of kinfolk. You're right at the end of the day. How dare they challenge you? How dare they strip you of your power and force you to crawl on your belly through a field of glass just to get back up to almost be status quo, but not quite. So never.
Sound familiar to you, man? Sounds so familiar.
Yeah,
It sounds like almost
you're
like a
the villain,
Magneto,
but
like
your character believes they're the hero.
It's Magneto basically.
Yeah. Yeah, in a way. I don't know.
It depends on which story you're reading, because in some storylines he actually is a protagonist. So we're not going to go into that kind of geekery.
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, of course.
So what do you think? What do you think?
What?
Go on, say it, let it go.
Oh, I was just waiting for you to chime in on PCs becoming villains. You have firsthand experience with this.
Okay.
You got to watch the whole story arc of an organization turning an honorable PC into a beautiful villain.
The biggest benefit for any aspiring PC to become eventually that villain is, one, the persistence of the organization, which is probably the weirdest aspect of what we do, because you have the time to have that full character progression from going, it's the very Batman thing of you live long enough to be called a villain and you die and become a hero. And a lot of these old characters are so fed up that they have a tendency of doing things that are not necessarily what you would expect out of a heroic character. And so long as people believe you're a villain, you are a villain. And the lengths that they will go to either silence you or stop you is spectacular. If they put half of the energy, a quarter of the energy towards actually doing their jobs, the org would be the narrative of the current org would be so different. But the power and the force that you can create in fear and in hatred of who you are is incredible if you do it right. It requires being very creative as a player, and it requires you be very powerful as a character, which is why you have to live long enough to become good enough. Because if you're a small sheet, you'll be mobbed.
I've got to disagree with you there. You don't have to be a large sheet to be someone's antagonist, to be their villain. One of the smallest examples I can give is a teeny tiny Ravno sheet, doesn't even have all of her chemistry yet, wound up getting this Billy Badass Tremere yelled at by people in his line of power because she happened to know the right person to kind of start tugging on some of the leaves. And it wasn't a matter of, oh, why are you picking on her? It's like, oh my God, why is this fucktard over here complaining about this tiny PC over here? And they got the guy yelled at and put him in such an awkward position that he was stuck. He couldn't go against his hierarchies, but at the same time, it just created so much conflict for him. I've also seen Baby Sheets conduct influential traffic in such an insane way that there would be no way they could take these higher sheets in a fist fight. No way. Take all fancy powers off of it. Just say smackdown, Potence fortitude battle. They would not win. But because of their ingenuity and their willingness to get their hands dirty and do some backdealing, they became very prominent background villains for some pretty monstrous sheets, and the best monstrous sheets never found out.
And that's actually a very fair statement. I will actually agree with you. But if you actually manage to live long enough to get that monstrous sheet yourself, if you are smart about it, and you are actually able to, say, eradicate an entire assassination squad sent by a coordinator to kill you,
who are you talking about there, Robert?
No, no one in particular. I'm merely
names,
a
buddy.
hypothetical situation. If you're capable of not just preventing your death by cord-level assassination, you will instill yourself as a villain that not even Skeletor or Megatron could, create. You will make a legend of yourself solely by doing gardening. Because they'll wonder what nefarious plots you're doing as you water your grapes. That's all
I have the opposite problem. I've been trying to get my Lasombra killed for the last year, and Bitch Tits is still alive and kicking and getting people complaining. No, seriously, I am not being smart with her in any way, shape, or form. I have gone through the front door of a Ventru's Haven because only the help go through the back door, and she's still alive.
Which is a bit of a mystery, but
I have to be safe to survive. Oh, hell no, you don't have to be careful. Sometimes it is just dumb luck and lucky chops.
Yes,
when you can make that your XP kind of give you that look of, did you just do that? It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, yeah, and I have to give a lot of credit to the players who do this, because when you play the antagonist, whether or not it is your choice, it is stressful because a lot of the time you're doing your actions alone and you don't have people going, buddy, I am behind you 100%. Because playing the antagonist can be lonely.
Yeah.
And
see, that's the problem. You say you're playing the antagonist. You must believe in your heart of hearts to pull this off that you are in fact the protagonist, perhaps of the entire game and or organization or region you participate in.
Yeah.
That is the way to become a PC villain on a mass scale. Like, the moment you know you're evil, you've already lost. You're setting yourself up to die. You're making plans to die. The moment you make death plans, you're done. You're just done. Like the if I die, this will happen.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Again, that falls back into the statement that you said, which was, I hate to say it, you have to view yourself as the protagonist. Even if you're going around condemning someone to a blood hunt over nothing more than he looked at you funny, well, I'm right. He's dead.
You say, looked at you funny. I say motherfucker drug gazed me in the middle of the street. He should die.
Exactly.
You know what? That's a potential breach of the silence of the blood right there. That's against the codes of Milan there. I mean,
is that new Camarilla law they replaced the masquerade with?
There you go.
Yeah. I'm actually this was brought up by somebody who just messaged me who's watching. Jason Williams brings up a very good point.
Oh boy.
All right. We'll
No. This is legit and not gypsy magic. This is him bring up, if you are antagonistic, people out of game, out of character, will start to hate you. And they will start to...
Give me that salt.
The bleed is very real. A lot of different organizations, and even in this organization, we refer to that as bleed. It can be difficult to feel like, whoa, why is Diamond, treating me this way? I thought we were cool. What's going on? And sometimes it's a matter of trying to sit down and have a frank conversation. Like, hey, we had a really intense game. Tell them, hey, you did a great job doing X, Y, and Z. A lot of it is going to be community building. Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes the fact of the matter is, some people are going to have a more difficult time processing bleed than other people.
Yeah, the crossover of out of character to in character is common, and it is a problem, and not a lot of people can handle it well.
Your voice is doing it again.
It's a problem in multiple organizations.
I'll be right back.
So we're gonna.
He went to get more cake.
He's gonna get more cake. He's gonna report back to the.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Diamond, about that salt thing. You can avoid salt after this and bleed if you walk up to someone like it was AYSO soccer and say "good game" after game.
Yeah, if you
just do is say hi to a motherfucker out of character, and things will turn out fine.
Yeah. Be
like,
real.
We seem to have lost that basic social, like, hey, we're still people. What up? And a lot of people don't do post game now. I've noticed a lot of gaming communities quit that. Like, I almost sound old, but back in the day, that was what kept things together.
Yeah. Basically, whenever.
A lot of it is...
Okay, go ahead.
Hold up. Let Jackie talk. Quick.
Oh, got myself a diamond knot here. A lot of it is getting older and having difficulties being able to stay up so late. I mean, I know I'm kind of like, old woman Clark at this point. I'm excited if I can stay up till 11 some nights. Part of it is just raising families, moving in different positions, and it's a little bit more difficult to try to bring a community together. One of the best ways to kind of combat that is try doing befores. We do that for our Sabbat game whenever we can. So we get together in the morning before we do an afternoon game. Try to do afters if at all possible. Different community events. I heard that what they do a lot in the New England area is they will have just no game related stuff, just have a get together with a handful of people. I know that out in Ohio, a bunch of the games will have roundtable conversations of, okay, let's talk about our issues. Let's figure out where we stand with each other. How can we improve? And I know that in Griffin, Georgia recently, our staff recently invited us to say, hey, give us a list of what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we can improve on, and just opening themselves up to possible criticism. Just things like that are what continue the lines of communication as a community. Yeah,
that's absolutely true. A great example of what Dwayne said was my character had to kind of righteously screw over another character because you have to do what your PC would do, not necessarily what you would do. And the player was righteously pissed at me for a long time because what I did kind of bent over his character concept-wise, but eventually when we just talked, I just made it clear, look, it was nothing personal, but I have to do what the character would do. Otherwise, otherwise I'm not playing true to the character, and that's, it's bleed. It's bleeding from real life to non-real life, and sometimes it's a hard thing to do. Because you have to realize, especially if you're playing things like Sabbat or Unseelie Changeling, you have to do some pretty awful things, and you got to grin while you do it. Even if you're playing Guru, or any of the Change of Breeds, or any of these genres, you have to do these nasty, terrible, emotionally demolishing things to other PCs. Imagine going through a satire, right, where you have to go up to the person and berate them.
That's fun.
Yep. My best friend in this organization, one of my first conversations with him out of play was going up to him after game going, I am so sorry. I am not this big of a jerk in real life. I'm actually a bigger jerk, and he knows that now, motherfucker.
Exactly.
But, just had that moment of, hey, and he's an experienced player, been playing years before I was, and he knew, and he didn't have issues with bleed, but making that effort regardless put me in a good headspace for being willing to do that with other people. And to be honest, I could be better about it, and I need to make a more concentrated effort on walking up to people after games saying, hey, thanks for reaming me back there. That was pretty awesome. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah. And amusingly enough, that same player who I screwed over says, hey, he actually admitted he's not angry anymore, but he wants to come to my character and say, hey, I'm just going to ask you to undo what you did. I'm like, well, I can't undo what I did, but I can do this. And he's like, that actually could work, and it'd be good role play. So if you have this incredible, powerful hatred for somebody for what they did, for what their imaginary character did to your imaginary character, instead of hating the person, hate the character and talk with the person to try and reconcile it and make it good role play.
So don't hate the player, hate the game.
Sure.
Indeed.
Isn't that what the art has been for the last 20 years?
Is communicate with the game staff about your intentions. Just be like, hey, to my understanding, this is what's going on with your game with your PCs. This is how it got to my PC. And this is the kind of action they would normally take. I don't want to screw over your game. I don't want to disrespect your game. Help me, help you, kind of make this a good story for everybody. Like the players that I have seen do that, who they have turned over their sheets and said, mark off anything that doesn't work with your house rules, who have prepared the staff ahead of time, has helped out a lot with bleed in many situations. And those are the good hallmarks of a responsible player.
Yeah.
Well, those were some good points and opinions, Now we move on to the last and final topic. The main goal of the villain and how it should be properly executed. How should the main goal be presented, and how should it be presented in a whole, or how do you properly execute it? And I will start with let's start with Jackie or Dylan. He's not saying that. I guess I'll start again.
Let's start with Dylan. I want to start with Dylan and see what he has to say.
Yeah, he has to actually talk.
I've been talking. I've been throwing in. I like the satire right idea. I think those are fun. I'm one of those players that enjoys that kind of right. See,
I wish you.
I do not. I play. Yeah, all right. So, crafting it trying to figure out how to say this without offending former storytellers.
Just offend everyone.
The best goals are the ones never found out by PCs. If you have a villain that wants to do X and the PCs think they're saving the world by combating Y, you've won as a storyteller, especially if, again, you can have consistency and have it come up later, where you could have, say, one of the best plots I've seen, a glasswalker slowly worked her way into politics to become mayor, and this transitioned through several ST staffs, and none of the PCs did anything. All these things just happened, and the PCs were given chance after chance to fix it. Nope, not once. It's been wonderful to watch. It's storytellers orchestrating good plot. The ST the players interact with it. They don't realize they're burning the world, but it's good.
It can be very frustrating as an ST when you have something that's right there and the players just won't go for it. And then you hear complaints of nothing ever really happens. One of the best ways I've found to really deal with that, to kind of go along with what you're saying there, Dylan, is keep having things moving in the background. The first HST that I ever worked with had very much a sandbox method for how he did a lot of stuff, which is, just because they're not going to go for what's dangling in front of them, no biggie. Just have it continue working in the background and then have it explode later down the line.
I would be a little bit careful with making that kind of time release villainy, because sometimes, especially if you say have a monthly game and something happens that consumes the entire game, the players may not have time to address that plot. So be cognizant of the time frame and what the players are able to do given what other storytellers may be doing. Because if say your AST consumes the entire room in one big mass combat that takes all night, well, they didn't really have a chance to go and investigate the villain. They were busy dealing with they were busy dealing with a mass combat, and those take hours sometimes. So be cognizant. It is your job as a storyteller to provide complexity and sometimes screw them over, but don't do it out of vindictiveness and, you didn't spend any time investigating. Well, we spent the last 3 games in mass combat. What time do we have to do this?
A player actually brought up an interesting point, not trying to cut you off or that. He actually have a question. It's actually Jason Williams again. He said how to bring forward How to bring horror to the game. Dang, hold up, he messaged me ASAP. How to bring horror into the game without being about being a sheep.
What the hell is that?
Did you
I
really
don't know.
Horror into a game without a sheet? Is that what it is?
Without being about a sheep. I guess he's talking about how to instill horror into the game without being like an NPC or something.
Paying
like
her
I
enough?
guess he's talking about the atmosphere or
Well,
something.
obviously you have to pay her enough.
I don't think it's like that. I think he's talking
So,
about the
as a-
atmosphere.
Horror. Okay. Sorry, I misheard.
Yeah. As a PC, one of the most simple things that I have done to instill horror into another PC was I played this very uptight, stick up the ass Ventru that has something kind of wrong with her, but nobody really can tell. And they'd finally had a huge, stressful scene, and they're finally coming out of it. And she just kind of has a swagger, a blank look in her face, and just starts singing "The Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round," in kind of a creepy voice. Sometimes it's just about those little touches of just getting that insight of someone else breaking and how it could rock your world.
I think it also helps to read the preface of most of these games. All of them have a very simple starting. This is a game of personal horror. This is a game of savage horror. Remember that. You don't necessarily have to swing a sheet around to demonstrate the savagery of a guru or the personal nightmare of being cursed as a kindred. You know, go back to your roots. Read the book. Realize what the curses are.
Wait a minute. You're telling me that I have to read? Nah.
Uh-oh. The player's worst nightmare.
I love this. We can just we watch them reading the phone.
To end this, I'm going to end this this whole thing off by basically reading what Jason Williams said was one of his best horror moments. He said,
and now a word from St. Williams.
Oh, praise St. Williams. Praise the ginger. Praise the gypsy. Praise.
Like he said, one of the best horror moments for me was the NPC that they made me walk was a spiral that did nothing but watch them sleep. They didn't find out for months, but just watch them sleep. I guess it was creepy because, he was just watching them. I mean, that'd be creepy enough if anybody was watching you sleep. I mean, shoot, let me look out the window right now, see if anybody watching me. Just, that's just creepy. I guess that could bring a level of just imagine your ST shooting you an email like, what is your character doing right now? He's sleeping. Oh, well, he feels like somebody's watching him. What? Just out of nowhere. Like,
sometimes
just get that random email.
Sometimes it is the basic shit that can drive a player into conniptions of horror.
Yeah, my present HST in Atlanta is really, really good about just randomly going up to you and going, "Hey, what's on your sheet?" Or, "Hey, what's happening right here?" Well, Axel, this. Why do you ask? No reason. When he says no reason and does that thing where he brings his hands together and just kind of walks away, it's like, what has he done?
That's more of a out of character horror than an in character horror. Sometimes it's just the most mundane of things that's out of place. Like, say, your character's driving down the road. That's weird. All of the street signs are misspelled. Why?
Your immediate declaration. You don't declare that you wake up. Like, seriously, that should be your immediate declaration. I wake up. Like, seriously, you should try that. I wake up. It's a good statement for a storyteller.
I'm going to remember that.
Yep.
Are you aware? Yep. Ironically, go ahead. Sorry.
what I was about to say is, sometimes I guess the best horror is the horror that's unexpected, and it's as storytellers, it's up to them to execute it properly and just be nonchalant about it, just like, oh, all right, and then just like tag them when they alone, get that horror out of them.
Hey, what is your character doing? If a storyteller spots a PC just kind of standing, doing nothing, oh, you know what we call that? We call that a target.
Yep.
You haven't said anything in a while. Let's give you plot.
One of my favorite tools that I've ever used has been a smartphone. I went up to a character while they're in the middle of a scene, and I figured, they're having a good social moment. I don't want to interrupt that. What do I do? So I pulled up my cell phone, and I went into my notes section, and I just typed in, "You receive a text message. Do you look at your phone or not?" Question mark. And I had a few different notes like prepared just in case they went down this rabbit hole or decided not to. And, I let them look at it. They would nod accordingly, or they would push the button as I instructed of them. And just the quiet horror on their faces, they were registering what was happening through this series of text messages, really brought a lot of texture to that personal horror for them.
Absolutely. Like Diamond said, it's up to the creativity of the storyteller, but be careful. Don't go too far.
You can't tell me what to do. You're not my real mom.
Yeah, she's free Sabat.
The last thing you want to do is be so disturbing that you start losing players.
Uh-oh.
Which is possible.
So the black card.
Yeah, I haven't seen that since I came back, thankfully.
Yeah, throw that if you ever need it. Remember that. Now it will be time to close out this great episode.
To play us out, as Bill O'Reilly would say.
Yep, to play us out. I would like each one of y'all to probably say what genre y'all play and do a game nod to certain games out there. I'll go last because I want to hear y'all game nods right quick.
Go to Midwinter. Midwinter is going to be fantastic. Haas is going to run a hell of a show. Go to Midwinter. Also, there's a lot of other stuff to do in Midwinter. Midwinter is fantastic.
Oh, who's going next?
My turn.
Come on, MC.
I play primarily Camarilla genre. That is presently what is most prevalent in my state. But my main love is Sabat. We play Demise of the Sovereign out of the Georgia area, and I'm excited about some of the things that STs have getting ready to roll there. I've been throughout the Florida area. They have some great games and fantastic players. Just the player exchange that we get to enjoy a few times a year is pretty phenomenal, and we receive some of the same players that come out of the Louisiana area. Whenever possible, I do try to make it out to the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic, but I'm hoping to expand that a little bit more in the future.
I will recommend to everyone to come to Beltane. Absolutely, if you play a mage or a changeling character or a Garou character and changing breed character. Specific games, Honor in the Shadows is my game. I always recommend it. Definitely Dogs of War. I have not had more fun in a wonderful game with a wonderful staff than I have had at Dogs of War.
Well, I guess it's my turn. Well, I'm in a plethora of games in Ohio, so I'm fortunate. Check out Panthers Playground, which they are hosting EC, which I'm excited about, so I can act a fool again. Yep. Brilliant staff. We also have Cam, which is Shadows of Cincinnati, which is a very good game. Go out and check that out. And we also have Cincinnati's very own first Werewolf game, which was started by yours truly, but is now ran by a beautiful staff now. And I have stepped down. Now I'm just watching my beautiful creation take flourish. And then you have other games in like Columbus, like Wild Prophets, CID, the Lancaster games like Webs of Fate and Mountains of Darkness and What else? Never Ended Nights. You have a plethora of games in Ohio, and also check out the event games like Midwinter that's coming up. I'm going to be doing 2 special prologue episodes about that sometime next week, and also a special episode at Midwinter. Probably going to start doing interviews on live, and games out Beltane too, and all them games. And
Jason Williams is yelling at us for not recognizing his games.
I should recommend EOR in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I'll recommend my home games because clearly Midwinter wasn't enough. St. Jason of Williams.
And Glitter and Gloom next year, guys. That's also a real big thing that's going to be coming up. Don't forget.
Okay.
Yeah, I will give definitely credit to St. Jason.
Okay. Sorry about that. Chicago got brilliant games out there. I love going out there.
No. I was
make sure I got time to go out there.
I'm from here.
Please,
of course.
Please don't ban us from New York, Chicago, and Midwest. We're good. We will follow your orders.
Oh, dude, it's good. You can't get banned from New York if you throw bottles at pedestrians, man. Nothing's going to get you banned.
All right, well, if y'all are done, I'm going to go get dinner. Thanks for having us, Diamond.
Of course.
Thank you, Diamond.
And this has been another exciting episode of the gaming adventures and lessons of Diamond Wolf. Y'all have a blessed day.
He's talking hard right now.